Our history is one that we respect, we recognize, and we make sure that we don't get away from acknowledging the importance of why we were created, while continuing to focus on expanding and growing our business and addressing the relevance of why we're here today.
Hello, and welcome to this podcast brought to you by the CEO Magazine. I'm your host and CEO of the CEO Magazine, David Jepson. In this show, we want to share with you the human behind the company, the figure behind the figurehead role. Being a CEO means you have to shoulder a lot of responsibilities and are seen as an extension of the company that you take care of. It's easy to forget that behind the role lies a human. In this podcast, we hope to shine a light on the humanity of the CEOs we cover and allow them to share their journeys. Now, in today's guest, we have a man known for his great compassion and a deep care for the communities that he serves. He has an innate ability to put people over profit. This makes this man an incredible executive. It's with that reason that I have the great pleasure of introducing you to the compelling CEO of Carver Bank, Michael T. Pugh. Welcome, Michael. Tell us a bit about what a day looks like in the life of Michael T. Pugh.
Yeah, my pleasure. First, let me just say I was very happy to be participating in this discussion today. I think if I were to describe a day in the life, it really involves a lot of focus on thinking about ways to make a significant impact to our community. So thinking about the strategic intent of the business and how to grow it, focusing a lot on the efforts there with our team in terms of looking at how we serve our customers, areas where we could do better, areas where we certainly want to be able to reach and touch through digital scale and efficiency with customers. A lot of time is spent with board of directors and investors, because, of course, someone in my capacity truly does serve at the pleasure of the board of directors. And so you want to make sure that you keep your board and your investors very much involved in the strategy and the growth plans for the business. And I think the other thing that's super important is because we are a hyper-local community bank, my efforts and focus are often centered on balancing reach and impact while ensuring that we maintain safety and soundness with a lot of the work that we do. So, for example, and we'll talk about this a bit more, I'm sure, but when we look at doing lending in the communities that we serve, oftentimes we have borrowers that may come to us and they haven't fully been able to refine their financial wellness or business strategy. Yet the work that they're doing will systemically improve the communities that we serve. And so there's the balance that I spend a significant amount of time in the community focused on how we serve and reach and support, but ensure that we remain safe and sound. There's never a dull moment. Let's just say that.
I can imagine. You use the word, I think, community in that answer 4 or 5 times, which really shows the focus you have on that. Could you just define for us what do you mean by community and what does that mean to Carver Bank?
I think for us, it's the ability to reach customers within our geographic footprint. New York is, as the late great Mayor David Dinkins used to describe New York as the great mosaic. So it truly is a melting pot where you find that there's so many people from different cultures and experiences. So when we think about community, we really think about the complexity, the diversity of our local neighborhoods and how important it is for us as a hyperlocal bank to reach those audiences in a way that's meaningful. So for example, when we think about women entrepreneurs, we know that greater New York City has some of the fastest growing segments of women entrepreneurs. Our purpose is to be here and support them. When we think about the Latinx community and African American, Caribbean American communities that have historically been in areas like Brooklyn, and of course, Manhattan, uptown here in Harlem. We understand the importance of how we need to make sure that we reach those communities and support them. And first generation Americans that are now settling in the neighborhoods where in proximity of our branches. So community for us is really about helping to systemically improve the safety and wealth of neighborhoods block by block, but also now thinking about, because of our digital reach, a much broader effort out there.
Being able to serve such a diverse community, empathy and compassion, I would think, are vital. What does compassion mean to you?
Compassion for me really is the ability to connect with the heads and hearts of the colleagues and the people that we're here for, which is our customers, right? And so when you think about those two things, our colleagues, we spend a lot of time really thinking about ways to be able to keep them engaged. We think a lot in terms of benefits and ways to be able to reach our team. For example, we have remote work positions that allow our folks to only have to be in the office 2 days a week, and then the remaining time they can work remotely. That mattered a lot for many of our colleagues, of course, coming off the heels of the pandemic. When we think about other things in terms of our benefits, we've continued to refine those based on survey and feedback from our colleagues in terms of things that matter to them. And we've done things like creating special events, recognition events that are centered on core values for the organization, results and transparency, teamwork, those kinds of core values that allow us to recognize colleagues and demonstrate an ability to connect with, again, the head and heart, compassion there. And similarly for our customers, as we continue to think about the importance of serving our customers, we don't look at the business from simply just a transaction standpoint. When our loan committee team is together and we're evaluating a loan from a potential borrower, we're talking about the jobs that will be created in the communities that we serve, and or we're discussing things like the first-time home ownership, the financial education and mastery tools and resources that are needed. We've educated over the past few years more than 16,000 people and helping small businesses. We've provided capital to small businesses over the past couple of years, particularly for women and minority businesses. So the ability to demonstrate compassion really is all centered on understanding the needs, the things that are important to the people that surround you, and figuring out how to truly be a conduit of energy and doing well when it relates to those individuals.
What are some of the events or lessons that have occurred either in your life or in your career that have informed your leadership philosophy?
So one of the biggest ones that I have shared a number of times with individuals as I've had opportunity to talk about myself, and again, it's not something I enjoy doing, but for me, it's if something matters, never give up. And so there's a story behind it that I'll share with you. There was a point in time several years ago, I worked prior to Carver, I'd spent the first 2/3 of my career, about 20 years in larger financial institutions. And I remember at one point being a senior vice president, regional president for another financial institution. And I was sitting down at my parents' home. I was talking to my mother, and I had my laptop, and I was working while on vacation. And I remember saying to her at that time that I just felt overwhelmed with the fact that there were very few people in the organization that looked like me. And so I was spending a significant amount of time figuring out ways to fit in to what the majority culture and experience was like within the institution, but it didn't appear to be any evidence of a genuine interest in my culture, my experiences, the things that made me uniquely qualified to be an authentic leader. And so during that conversation, my mother, a woman that, God rest her soul, was of very few words, but powerful words when she spoke, she said something that was really important. She said, "Do you love what you do, and do you believe that it matters?" And I said, "Yes, I think that I actually do make a difference." And so she said, "If something matters, never give up." And she said it again in a softer voice and looked away. "If something matters, never give up." And it has always stuck with me. So it's a way that then I challenge myself today, that I think about how I spend my time and the things that matter, and spending my time on things that will make a difference to those that I care about, and understanding that my purpose, my opportunity here is to truly be able to help others in a meaningful way, whether it is through being a coach and a source of support, being a listening ear, or using my financial expertise to help someone achieve their overall goals. The North Star for me is, if something matters, never give up.
As an executive, there's lots of things we want to do and have an impact on, but we're dealing with finite resources, whether it's financial, whether it's time. How do you prioritize in terms of what matters? How do you make that assessment?
So there's no easy way to really answer that important question, because there's not a day that goes by that I don't find myself doing multiple things at one time, and requiring the need to truly lock in so that you get all of those things done. But I would say that I try to prioritize what's important based on our colleagues, our customers, and our community, which ultimately extends to our shareholders and investors. You know, you heard me talk a bit earlier about the importance of making sure that you have happy colleagues, people that are enjoying what they're doing. And I think part of what we've done a really nice job here is that we hire people passionate about the mission of the organization, and understanding that as a United States Treasury designated community development financial institution, a CDFI, part of our core mission is to help drive economic empowerment in the neighborhoods that we serve. We do that in a very special way. 80 cents of every dollar on deposit gets reinvested in the communities that we serve. And that's done through access to capital for small businesses, entrepreneurs, first-time homeowners, et cetera. It's done through financial education resources and tools, partnering with colleges and universities for financial mastery for young adults that are preparing and starting their independence. And the ability to connect those important actions and story with the colleagues, it's the colleagues that are doing the work. So you have to be able to engage and bring on a team that understands the importance of that work, feels equally passionate about what it means to give back. Of course, in my role is also to make sure that I'm being an advocate and taking care of them to the best of my ability.
You used the phrase earlier on, a North Star. You were speaking about your own personal North Star.
Yes.
When you became the CEO at Carver Bank, was it always a natural fit between your North Star and what the organization wanted to do?
So it's been over 8 years now, and wow, what a difference a day makes. When I initially came on board, I joined the organization in 2012, and I joined as the president and chief operating officer. I didn't have a background and an experience with hyper-local community banks. I spent about 2/3 of my career in two of the largest financial institutions in the country. So large financial institutions operate very differently, and processes, decision-making is often very centralized. The ability to be able to make decisions and reach customers requires quite a bit more bureaucracy in those organizations. So I wasn't sure that coming to a bank the size of Carver, at the time had about 140 employees, that it would be the best fit. But what I knew was that there was something special here. And the reason I wanted to be a part of it is because I continued to hear the stories about the type of work that was being done, the work in terms of helping small businesses and reaching, entrepreneurs in a way that helped beyond just a transaction, but really thinking about their strategy, their growth plans, aligning them with public and private sector partnerships so that they could truly thrive. I wanted to be a part of that. I often talk about something that's very important here in this organization, which is people come to Carver because they want vote, voice, and visibility. So at the table, it's a very flat level organization. There aren't that many levels between myself and the person that is front line in the organization. And so the ability to be able to share customer feedback with me or our board of directors happens very frequently. We don't make critical business decisions without engaging our colleagues to make sure that we truly understand the impact for our customers and the impact for them. And so, again, leveraging their voice, and they often vote on very important things that are being done here in the organization. So it really is it's a family would be the best way to describe it.
And tell us a bit more about the digitalization process that you've been on, because that's never easy.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so, there's a few ways to approach your business, right? You could either be a innovator or you could be a fast follower. And banks have not historically been known to be great innovators. We quickly learned that it was important for us to understand technology and the role that it would play in reaching our customers. And so we've partnered with fintechs. Now, one of the things, again, I think that's really special about the work that we do here at Carver is that we've also sought women and minority-owned fintech partners because it's created a platform and an opportunity for them to truly grow their business while aligning with an institution that has historic connections to historically underserved communities. And so we've engaged partners that have helped us to create solutions for our small business customers. I think that has certainly been innovative. The intersection between fintech partners and especially community banks will be a very important part of how we look at our business going forward, not only at Carver, but just in the industry as a whole. Because as you well know, David, when you're in a larger financial institution, you've got data engineers and, scientists, people that their day job is to create something interesting. In community banks, we rely largely on core providers that give us a standard platform, and there isn't much more that you could do with it beyond what they give you. And so it's then layering with fintech partners to be able to create solutions above and beyond that canned solution, I think is so important as we strive to reach broader audiences and better serve our customers.
And I imagine, like you talked about before, in terms of the way you attract people, you want people who are attracted to the mission statement. And I imagine it's a similar process with those partners.
That's exactly right. And so when you heard me talk about aligning ourselves with women and minority fintech partners, we're intentional about doing that because we want to create a platform and an opportunity to help those partners thrive. There's no better way, at least that I could think of in terms of doing that, than to work closely with them and participate in their learning curve as they come to better understand the customers that we serve, how to deliver solutions in a banking environment that are centered on excellence, because our customers deserve it. And they have to have some attraction to our mission. They have to understand that the work we do here is beyond a transaction. It truly is about helping to play a role in transformation of lives, participating in generational wealth in our own way.
What was it that has ignited your interest in helping others? You talk about it so authentically and so passionately. Are there any particular role models you have?
So the social paradigm for me, my family, I remember growing up as a kid, and I come from a family of healthcare providers. The conversation at the table, dinner table, was often centered on patient care. Healthcare is great, but for me as a young adult, it was very close to the grappling realities of what happens in our life. You know, we are all here for a short time, and it is what we do with that time that truly matters. So I knew I didn't want to work that close to the circle of life, if you will, but I wanted to play a role in wellness. I got a job as a part-time teller while continuing my college education and working my way through it. I quickly started to then pay attention to the conversations that were happening at the desk with the new accounts representative and the loan officers. And the look of relief or satisfaction that was on the face of customers as they were being presented a solution from the desk, I saw that to be equivalent with the type of care and satisfaction that was similar for those that had just gotten a favorable diagnosis or a treatment that helped them to recover from something. It was this almost similar kind of look of relief. So I knew I wanted to do something that would allow me to play a role in helping my customers have that look of relief, that look of satisfaction. And I continued to double down on learning as much as I could about banking and asking, to just be a part of any conversations, any training courses and programs. 20 plus years later, I ended up in a position as the chief executive officer for a community bank. But it truly is, for me, it's all about remembering that look of relief, that look of satisfaction, and being a part of that experience for our customers is the thing that I think I love the most.
And you, like you've said, you're delivering the ability for people to transform their lives, transform their businesses, and you're doing that for underrepresented communities, minorities in particular. How big of a problem is this in the United States in terms of the number of people who don't have proper access to these types of facilities?
We know it's a significant issue when we look at the wealth disparity that exists within our nation. And there was a study done by McKinsey and Company that highlighted the significant gap in terms of the wealth gap that exists within our nation, and that it could be improved again significantly just by honing in on the historically underserved communities. That really matters for us. The ability to support and help historically underserved communities improve their overall quality of life. We don't see that as an issue that's just about minorities. It's an American issue. Because when we talk about the GDP, you really can't talk about GDP for our nation unless you're talking about an American issue. During the pandemic, we saw a staggering number of small businesses. Nearly 40% of Black-owned small businesses were at the brink of closing their doors or did, in fact, close their doors. And so then the wealth gap becomes exacerbated in situations like that. And ultimately, the taxpayers are all impacted when there's a higher unemployment rate and, of course, businesses that are closing. We participated in one of the stimulus programs, the Paycheck Protection Program, and we were able to provide access to capital to more than 16,000 businesses at a national scale with over $300 million and access to capital to those small businesses, again, nationally. And at a local level, we, here in New York City, we help to support more than 400 businesses with greater than $50 million in access to capital. And so it's just an example to highlight that when you can help small businesses navigate through really tough times, it's not just about the business. It's not just the transaction. You're helping to stabilize jobs in communities. There's still a tremendous amount of work that has to be done, and there's a lot more players that have to be involved, but we're committed and very much focused on this issue.
Doing such important work as you do, and you mentioned the look of excitement or relief when people get access to financing, whether it's for a small business, for a home. How do you deal with the pressure? There must be times when obviously maybe you can't provide financing to people, or knowing there's still so many people out there that we want to help. How do you cope with those two things?
Yeah, it certainly is a tough issue. I think the way that you deal with the pressure of the issues that you just described, David, is very similar to anything else in life. You face it head on, courageously, and stay focused on the end goal that you're trying to achieve. And the cases that you described where we simply can't help the customer at this time, it deserves a very transparent conversation about what's needed in order for them to be in a position for support going forward. We try to be proactive as we think about and anticipate that those kinds of issues will in fact occur. So partnerships with public and private sector for credit scoring or credit review and the opportunity to be able to clean up your credit. We have it for 2 of our bank branches here in New York City. We have 7 branches throughout New York City. And in 2 of the locations, we've partnered with an organization called Operation Hope. And they're doing some incredible work at a national scale. But for us, the work that we're honed in on is credit repair and counseling for our customers. So again, it's getting in front of an issue that we already know that exists. It's educating and helping customers to understand what it takes in order to be prepared for a strong financial future. And it also, there's a considerable amount of service that you have to be willing to commit to in terms of your time. As an example, partnering with one of the largest financial institutions here in Greater New York City, and of course globally, Citi, they included me in some great conversations with entrepreneurs to help them think more broadly about how to prepare themselves for capital, the work that and the things that they need to do in order to be credit worthy. And so when you've got an institution of Citi size at a global scale that can bring hundreds of entrepreneurs to a meeting just to learn about what it takes in order to be ready for credit, capital, and bankable, we know that we've done something right because we've inspired a partner of that magnitude to want to be at the table with us side by side and have those kinds of conversations. Our best way to be able to deal with the tough issues that are out there is to address them head on. Don't run from them.
And that educational piece, I guess, it's in no one's interest for if a potential customer comes to you and for whatever reason they don't have the right credit, they can't get what they need. Nobody wins. But if you're able to engage with them and educate them and help them on that journey, you're creating a customer who previously was one.
That's right. And so there's a loyalty aspect there, right?
Yeah.
Because you've played a role in their growth story. We've seen that through partnerships and programs that we've done with the Metro Transportation Authority, the MTA, where we have provided in the past contractor financing, small businesses that wanted to bid for contracts with this agency, this agency being one of the more significant ones throughout New York City and the state of New York, frankly. And so for contractors that want to bid for work, but not having the capital to be able to actually complete the projects if they won the bid, we've worked with them. We've helped them understand what it takes to be bankable and to get the access to capital. And we've been a part of their success story and their journey. We've seen these businesses go from 2 employees to 20 employees. The look of relief and satisfaction that you heard me talk about earlier truly does come full circle. And it is the reason why we believe that the work we do is just so darn important.
So, Michael, you talked about the success stories that you've seen throughout the communities where you work, and clearly those are hugely important to you. How do you ensure you get that feedback loop so that you, as the CEO, are driven and you're feeling great about what you do?
We remain very close to our customers. So one example that really stands out for me is that we, on an annual basis, bring together women of color and that are entrepreneurs to an annual roundtable with myself and members of my team. And that roundtable presents an opportunity for us to hear from the entrepreneurs the issues and challenges that they are faced with and the support that they need from a financial institution in order to thrive and grow. Part of the reason that we selected that group to have this annual roundtable that takes place is that certainly here in our nation, what we see is that women of color, Black women, are the second fastest growing segment of women entrepreneurs in the nation, but last in terms of income. Their starting base in terms of capital is some of the lowest there. And so their voice has to be heard. The first step is participating in these roundtable discussions. And from there, we then go back and we develop a strategic plan that allows us to create solutions over the course of the year, specifically targeted towards our audience of customers that have come to those roundtables. So it's hearing the feedback from our community in terms of what's needed and then responding to it. And I'm a huge believer in keeping a report card so that if you say you're going to do something, you come back and you report out the progress that you've made, the actions, the steps that you've taken in order to get it done.
And could you talk a little bit about your position as a community bank and how that sits within the larger sort of financial landscape? But also then, as you grow the business, is there a risk that you move away from being a community bank and everything that comes with?
We were founded in 1948 by a group of civic-minded small business owners, leaders, African American, Caribbean American folks that were here in New York City and knew that they needed financial services. If you can imagine, it was during a time that simply because of the color of their skin, they were not allowed to bank at some of the other financial institutions. And so our history is one that we respect, we recognize, and we make sure that we don't get away from acknowledging the importance of why we were created, while continuing to focus on expanding and growing our business and addressing the relevance of why we're here today. And today, when you connect the dots with our history, we play a significant role in helping small businesses, women and minority entrepreneurs grow and achieve financial success. And I would say that we're one of the premier community banks at a national scale because of the type of work that we do to truly hone in and develop solutions for entrepreneurs. Being in 9 states digitally, from Massachusetts to Virginia, including Washington, D.C., we see it as important for us. And it's not it's not getting away from our story, but it truly is a continuation of the story. Because of the powerful work that we've done, it deserves to be out there and it deserves to be told in other communities. If you don't live in New York City, but you really are passionate and you love the mission and the kind of work that we're doing, we want you to have the opportunity to bank with us and to help join our mission in terms of addressing the wealth gap in our nation.
And final question from me. There'll be lots of people listening to this in the business community, particularly in the United States, who hear your mission, see the importance of it, and would probably love to support. What's your message to the business community in terms of how they can help you with this mission?
One of the biggest ways to support is by investing in us. We're a publicly traded company, and so capital drives so much of the work that we do. And so what we would invite anyone out there that's interested to do is to join us. And that could be through the form of making a direct investment. But the other way is also to bank with us. You heard me talk about 80 cents of every dollar on deposit gets reinvested in the communities that we serve. And so if you're someone that is a socially conscious person and you care about women entrepreneurs, you care about small businesses and seeing them thrive, you care about addressing this important issue in our nation in terms of closing the wealth gap or making strides in that direction, we are the type of institution you should align yourselves with if you truly care about those things, because you can then emphatically know that the dollars you have on deposit will do good in the communities that we serve, and it truly will make a difference.
There we have it, our conversation with the CEO of Carver Bank, Michael T. Pugh. It was really interesting to hear Michael talk about Carver Bank's mission, the way they serve and transform the communities that they work within. Find out more about them at www.carverbank.com. If you enjoyed this episode, brought to you by the CEO Magazine, make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with future episodes. If you're looking for more exclusive interviews with the people behind the world's biggest brands, make sure to check out our website, ceomagazine.com, or download our mobile app. I'm David Jepson. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.